Hey guys, tonight I'm doing something different. First of all, I did cut off my swimming practice. I just went for 1 hour only in order to be here at this Barnes and Noble cafe in Upper East Side because of this guy, Itzhak Perlman. As you saw in the event board, Itzhak Perlman is here tonight. He's one of the best violinists in the world and somebody that I used to listen to a lot a long time ago in my former life as a violinist, especially during the time that I played live the Paganini's 24 Capriccios. I used to listen to these tapes a lot. Yeah, tapes, exactly, a long ago. And I decided, although I'm a different man now, to pay respect to my past, so to speak, and come over here and have a look at him in person. I mean, basically, he's stopping by tonight at the one place, and it's like a second home to me. So he's coming to my home. I have to be here. With other words, there's no excuse. So I'm here at 7 o'clock, just like a wristwatch. But in this kind of events, to be in time is to be late. Obviously, I am late because, as you see in the monitor, the door is closed. The little room on the left side is already full, so I just got to stay outside, and that's what I did. I stayed outside here and I recorded from the monitor see his speech. Part of his speech I'm going to show you right now, the ones that I thought are very important if you're a musician. Otherwise, the rest was like history and blah 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 here and there, things that don't really stand the test of time. But what you're gonna hear right now actually is pretty good. So enjoy it, and I see you next week.
When do you advise someone to say, how do you make that break, or when do you know it's right to make that break from being someone who's going to be in an orchestra and somebody who's going to strike out on a solo career?
Well, it's a very good question. It's a very subtle kind of thing, You listen to somebody and there's a certain kind of energy that you have, but the energy also has to involve a certain kind of charisma. It's a whole. It's very, very difficult to say who can do a certain way of career or who not. Sometimes you have somebody who's really a terrific fiddle player. Beautiful sound, very good technique. Musical and so on and so forth. But yet there is an element of something that's maybe not there, and that's one of the things. As a teacher, I can tell you can't teach. You can't teach that. So what do? So I always say to my students, you have to shoot for the stars. Do whatever it is, but you have to be realistic as to what you can do, and they have to be inventive. You should not say, if I don't do that, I'm not going to do anything. But you can say, well, there's so many things. The important thing is very funny. I just saw today a little video that they issued about me, and I was saying exactly the same thing that I said right back. That was 20 years ago, and I still say the same thing. And that is, be inventive about, if you have the passion to play music, that's the number one requirement. Then you can do a lot of stuff. You can play chamber music, you can teach. If solo opportunity arises, you can do that. But you can do a lot of things. It's not like you have to do just one thing. That's be, a solo artist and play Carnegie Hall and play, play with famous orchestras and so on. That's just one thing that you can do in music.
You mentioned the charisma. You're known just as much, I think, for your outgoing personality.
Me?
Yeah. And being funny. As a matter of fact, the most embarrassing thing I think I ever asked you was you were going to be doing a solo show, and I asked him if you were going to be doing stand-up, and you said,
sit down.
Yeah, so
I do sit-down comedy.
Yeah.
I always do it. It's my specialty.
It took me a long time to get over that. But I'm curious about your family. Usually funny people come from funny families. Were there people that were in your family that were funny?
My father had a lovely sense of humor, and I'm sure that most of you probably know, as you get older, you sort of hear your parents in the way you speak, you know, in the way that you react, you know, and sometimes, you know, sometimes, and somebody says something to me and I show some interest, I says, oh, and I remember that's what my father always did. He said, oh. Like I remember he used to play chess, and he was a very good chess player, and a lousy chess player. And every time I made a move that maybe wasn't right, he looked at the move and says, oh, you know, and then I said, does he mean that it's good or does he mean that it's bad? You know, he wouldn't let me know. So, and I do that sometimes. So, you know, so I suppose my father had, you know, something, you know, not my mother, she was serious, very serious. You have to practice.
Was she the one that, did she hand you the fiddle at some point?
No, she told me to take it. She didn't hand it to me, you know.
She take it.
Yeah. No, it's, look, my parents were not musical at all. I mean, they were not into music, they were not professional musicians at all. But all they knew was that...
But you started very young.
I started at 5 years old. But today, that's if you look at YouTube, you see people who are 3 years old already playing nicely. But then they stopped playing. You know, they retire at the age of 6. You know. But you know, because of a long career.
But starting at 5 for not coming from a musical family, that's kind of remarkable that you.
Well, you know,
were
all
on the
they-
Sullivan Show when you were
13.
13.
Yes.
Right.
But you know, my parents always said, you know, they didn't know much about music. All they knew is that they needed to hear sounds from the violin coming out of my violin. That means I was practicing. If they heard silence, it was bad news. So that's basically it.
And did they ever anticipate that this would be a life and a business for you?
Yes. They did.
Yeah.
That they were hoping. Absolutely. You know, that's the dream of everybody. Whenever somebody starts playing violin and they show some talent, the dream is for them to one day be a famous so-and-so, a pianist, a violinist, or whatever it is. You know what this is? That the woman who goes to Sol Hurak. Remember, Sol Hurak was one of the great managers.
Impresario.
He was the impresario. He brought back the Russians and so on, and fantastic. And so the story goes, the woman goes to Sol Hurak with a cassette. That was it. You can see that's an old joke. She goes with a cassette. Doesn't go with a CD or a DVD. With a cassette. And she says, "You have to hear my son, please." And she puts the cassette on, and it's this amazing pianist. I mean, phenomenal. And he says to her, "That's your son?" She says, "No, that's Vladimir Horowitz, but my son plays just like him."